Hello, I'm Tobi Arayomi,
And I'm Tomi Arayomi.
my co-host. Today we're going to be talking about royal privilege, the new victim class, on the table.
You done?
Yeah.
Cue the music.
We all have a life.
No word, no bed. No ringing, no baby, female, no female. All right, bro, welcome back to On the Table. Thanks for deciding to pop your head round the corner. We know we missed you last week.
What it is, I always need a break from you.
I
It's
see.
the things that you say.
I see.
I need a mental health holiday
I see.
to keep myself sane. That's all.
I see. But listen, it's good to have you back. I think, last week I held it down. You can't say people
It's
too
all right.
much.
You did a really weird thing with a bridge.
I can't say people miss you too much, but all the same, it's nice to have all
I got a
different.
lot of messages.
So I think you did get a lot of messages.
from people
Sorry,
saying
doggies.
that they miss me.
Bronx, move away from there. Sorry. You got a lot of messages from people, did you?
A lot of messages. People saying that they missed me and they would.
Yeah, I saw them in the comments section. Maybe we'll pull up one or two sympathetic ones towards you. But anyway, glad to have you back. You call me your co-host, but more and more you're emerging as more of a guest of the show. So welcome back, guest. Good to have you back.
Yes.
Actually, you know what? Bronx actually filled in for you a lot better than you did. He was a lot more entertaining. People appreciated him. I don't know if you saw him on the last week on the table. He even did the thing.
He didn't last on the table with you. I noticed within 5 minutes even he had had enough and he needed a break.
Well, true, sir. He was tired, whatever. Okay, so.
I saw him sleeping while you were talking as well.
Okay.
Let's continue.
Let's continue. I digress. So, we're talking about this kind of backdrop. This, again, is your topic, so I'm going to let you take point and center on this one. So, yeah, this is kind of your thing. You wanted to have this discussion because you feel like you missed out on, obviously, what was an explosive interview full of lots of tropes that we all are triggered by, like race and mental health and suicide and feminism and systemic privilege, as we like to call it. And so I tried to avoid the tropes, I really did, and tried to hone in on probably some conversations that we're not having, like her truth. What does that even mean? What is your truth? There are no two versions of truth. But I was really honing in on different things. So you want to take this from royal privilege to new victim class. Go for it.
It's just was interesting to me how nobody is immune from this victim thing. And it seems to me that they need heroes of victimhood, more and more heroes of victimhood. And the perfect person right now at this time would be Meghan Markle. And on cue, right around Women's International Day, the celebration of all women, comes a story with very bad journalism. And you heard no counter question from Oprah Winfrey, no questioning of her truth, no cross-examination.
No pushback.
I didn't hear it once. Deep scrutiny of, well, actually the family are saying this, well, what do you think of that? It all seemed like we were championing a new hero. And I guess America went to war, and their independence battle was to liberate themselves from the monarchy. And so it's probably self-serving or in their own interest as well to sort of throw the monarchy further under the bus in a media warfare. But it just is interesting to me that this Victim Olympics has reached the heights of those who are considered privileged. Now you talk about privilege in our world, and the doctrine of the left seems to be that if you are privileged, then you cannot claim victim status. But here you have somebody who achieved the highest, arguably, level of privilege. She rises to the echelon. Sort of a, let's face it, you put me onto the show, what's the show called? That she was involved in, Suits. You put me onto it. Second-rate show, let's face it, it's dead.
Excuse me, it's brilliant.
It's not really,
What are you
it
talking
was
about?
a dead show.
Are you
It was
kidding
a
me?
dead show.
Are you? No,
It was dead
not
from the moment
going,
we
not
got
going there with you.
It was dead,
Sorry,
it wasn't
move on.
good acting.
Moving
It was
on, moving
It
on,
was dumb.
moving
It
on.
was severe,
Okay.
high levels.
I disagree with your assessment. It was
Her acting
brilliant.
wasn't good.
Suits was and continues to be brilliant.
Her acting wasn't
Brilliant. Disagree.
good. Their acting wasn't good.
We agree to
Okay.
disagree.
The only person who was good, the only person that was good in the show,
Don't
who-
say
who's
Harvey
person existed in
Specter.
real life and could be my assistant,
Don't say-
Dana. If she could be my, she's a robot, a machine of a human being. That was it. That was it. She represented everything you want to see in a personal assistant. She was just a genius, intuitive, smart, and everything. But the acting was, at any rate, the show was pretty dead and predictable. She rises from that show. Talk about glass ceilings and barriers and all. She rises from that show to the highest estate, family, whatever you can say, in the United Kingdom. Arguably the most influential family in the world. Maybe the Kardashians kind of top it, I don't know. She rises to this level and still claims victimhood. And I can see it. I can understand it. This is what we're here to argue today. Because it seems a paradox exists now. There are those who have privilege cannot complain. Those with the privilege now have the ability to complain. Then the argument becomes far more nuanced, because then you'll say, well, she's a black woman, so she rectors on the scale somewhere of victimhood, so the richness is cancelled out by the blackness, and then you get the black crowd going, but is she really black? Is she?
And this is my problem with identity groups. All identity groups really are victim classes. We're all humans. None of us are a subsect or a special evolved version of a human being. We're all human beings essentially. But what this dangerous ideology does is it puts us into these classes based on shared victimhood. And once we find ourselves in these classes, then privilege itself gets to be redefined. Because when you start living in your own experience of truth, then that experience is only supported by others within the community who say, we've had the same experience. And so anybody outside of that experience group gets immediately ostracized and beaten up. The thing about what made this interview so robust and convenient for Meghan Markle is she conveniently found her way into every victim class all at the same time, but for the LGBT community. Here's a woman, feminist. Here is a freedom fighter, a global warming activist. Here is a mixed race black woman. She falls into the cluster class, therefore, of the Black Lives Matter crew as well. So she's conveniently flavored and peppered this interview with so many tropes, but she comes as the representative of every victim cluster group, but for the LGBT community, in this fight against systemic patriarchy. We all love the royal family. We love the royal family for their pageantry. We love them for the weddings and the anniversaries and all of those things. And we sing God Save the Queen, and we do all of those because we love the tradition, the history of the royal family. But our traditional bubble somewhat is broken when we realize, oh my goodness, these people don't live in the 1940s. They're modern too, and they have modern issues, and they have modern problems. My suspicion is, and here's my suspicion, victim classes have switched from the proletaate, the poor working class people, to the wealthy for one reason. Because they're so wealthy and so comfortable that they have to find new things to worry about. Just think about this. Like, imagine being so wealthy, right? You know, I was so naive. I went to Malawi, right? And I'm sitting with widows in Malawi. And all of a sudden I'm like, what's wrong with you? So I can pray for you. Because I believe in prayer. So like, what's wrong with you? I want to pray for you. They're like, oh, it's my eye. I was like, is it glaucoma? I was like, what is glaucoma? I said, well, go to your optician. They're like, what is optician? You mean doctor. They don't know optician, they don't know pediatrician, they don't know gynecologist, they just know doctor. Is it possible that in our luxury and in our ease and in our comfort, we have to find new things to be a victim about so that people can feel like tradition has come into the modern world? And we're saying, we're you too. What Meghan Markle was saying in that interview was, I am you. I am you too. I'm not traditional, old school. I don't curtsy for the Queen. I don't sing God Save Our Gracious Queen. I don't even sing God Bless the USA. I am you. And I'm going to show you I'm you because everybody else is taking care of the things that are needed. So I need to create this victim place so I can show you I'm still you.
I hear you. And yes, you've hit something on the head there. There are two great tests that a philosopher outlined of humanity. Prosperity and scarcity are the great tests of the human spirit and who we are. I actually say there are three levels of great tests of the human spirit. Not enough, just enough,
Right.
more than enough.
Right.
When you don't have enough, it's what are you willing to do to become, to get, or to achieve? What are you willing to violate to get?
Yeah.
Or are you going to follow principles? Or are you going to blame somebody instead of taking responsibility? Are you going to protest rights over responsibility? And it seems to me that the people who complain the most are not even people with not enough. The people who actually complain are the people with just enough. In our world today, capitalism has all but almost eradicated poverty. Poverty, according to how it used to be, globally, because of capitalism.
Now, people are. Let me just like season your words. Poverty still exists. You're not saying poverty is decimated. You're saying our standard of living is dramatically improved. So basically, poverty has gone up with it. So the new poverty would kind of make the old poverty look at us and go, "You're rich."
Exactly. You got people who don't have jobs in their house with 3 TVs in each room, fridge, bed, and all sorts, still complaining and protesting for more rights. The thing is, each level, we assume, and I've seen a fallacy of right-wing reporting. Right-wing reporting almost assumes that because she's rich, she doesn't have problems.
And this is a huge affront to me as well. You know, I saw...
It's a big issue.
It's a big issue. I saw people like Candace Owens come out. I agree with her on a lot of issues. Don't agree with her on style, but I certainly agree with her on a lot of issues. Sorry, Bronx is hawking. Is he okay? He's got something in his throat. I agree with her on a lot of issues. I don't agree with her style and her approach. I find it like she's a hammer in search of a nail. When you're a hammer, everything's a nail. This didn't need a hammer. This conversation, it didn't need a hammer. It wasn't Hillary Clinton's email scandal. This was not Watergate, okay? This was a duchess who, for all intents and purposes, has some reason to be upset, some reasons that you can at least sympathize with, and say, I sympathize with that, but I don't. You see, here's the problem, right? You have this thing called extremism, and the right always accuses the left. You're extremist, you're an extremist. And what they mean is, we recognize there's a problem, but your solutions are beyond the pale. Like, who does that? Who prescribes puberty blockers to 6-year-old children it's just extreme, right? So I think what we're now doing, what those on the right are now doing, is they're saying, well, what you're doing is we're not even addressing extreme solutions. We're trying to exaggerate the extremeness of the stupidity of their problem. And I find that to be mean. And I find that to be, I find it to be brutish. I don't find that it helps you to get the point across. It doesn't make you any more or any less credible to say, I recognize Meghan Markle may have perceived everything that went on as a race issue. I mean, you look at the whole issue of entitlement of like peerage of the son being called a prince. Lots of the family members and the grandchildren don't receive titles who are Caucasian. And actually it's a ruling of the royal house that the grandchildren of the firstborn becomes a prince and not the rest of them. And so this is the big problem. The big problem here is you're watching this interview that's already peppered in narrative, and everybody's already coming around to see racism because they've already set their mental DVR set to say, I'm going to see something racist. They haven't set it to say, I'm going to see something that appears discriminatory, and I need to critically analyze this so that I can formulate an appropriate conclusion. And I actually find both the left-wing lens and the right-wing lens to be very destructive in their way. I used to try and see things from a right-wing lens and just go right-wing, right-wing, right-wing. I find both lenses really destructive. I find that poverty is a real problem. Nobody's ever going to tell me poverty is not a real problem. Nobody's ever going to tell me that our planet, that there are real, genuine planetary concerns. You know, the climate is changing. There's no doubt about that. The world is getting more and more polluted. The oceans, those are real issues. I challenge you on your solutions. And I challenge you on the authoritarian and governmental overreach and imposition of your reality upon me and my children.
It's the politicization of these issues that's the problem. There's a video I want to play.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've seen it, but I think it deals with perception very well. And a lot of people would have seen it.
The monkey business illusion. Count how many times the players wearing white passed the ball. The correct answer is 16 passes. Did you spot the gorilla? For people who haven't seen or heard about a video like this before, about half miss the gorilla. If you knew about the gorilla, you probably saw it, but did you notice the curtain changing color or the player on the black team leaving the game? Let's rewind and watch it again. Here comes the gorilla, and there goes a player, and the curtain is changing from red to gold. When you're looking for a gorilla, you often miss other unexpected events. And that's the monkey business illusion.
Now, isn't it interesting? When we are looking at one thing, we miss the other thing.
Absolutely.
Right? That was the interesting thing of it. Let me tell you what the right does. Quite well, but our response is quite bad. We don't pay attention to how many times the ball's being passed around. That's the trick. That's the diversion. We're watching the dancing monkey.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? We're looking at the motive, the underlying direction, the wind or the spirit behind it.
And the long game.
Nature. Exactly. The long game of what's going on. So whilst then you got this intelligentsia on the left that are driving this move gradually, and they've got a generational plan.
Right.
But then you got this gullible middle, who are the majority, who don't even understand the polarities within which the narrative is being framed. Don't understand postmodernism. Don't understand conservatism. And so they don't see the great polarity this thing's been moving in. There's another video I want to play for a moment. It was the argument between Candace Owens and T.I. on the basis of race and even her support of Trump. On cue.
So please answer this. Please answer this. I have a question. I have a question. Wait. Please just allow me just one outburst. Please. I have a question. When you say make America great again, which period are we talking about? The period when women couldn't vote? The period when we were hanging from trees?
I'll answer.
Or like the crack era? Which period in America are you trying to make America like again?
So I actually think that I would totally rock a hat right now that said make Black America great again. Because Black America,
make America.
Before,
We're talking about make America. That wasn't the question.
I am answering your question.
Which period was America great that we're trying to replicate? Which era was it? Tell me.
I think I'll answer your question.
Tell me.
I'm ready to answer your question.
Which era was it?
What?
Which era was so great?
Here's the thing that you guys are forgetting. America was actually one of the slavery was all over the world. All over the world. America was, I'm not saying it's okay, so why are you saying, oh?
Hey, man.
America was one of the first countries.
I want to like you so bad.
I'm trying to answer your question.
I want to like you so much.
I can't answer the question.
I want to hear y'all. I want to be able to hear them. I want to be able to hear them.
If I can't answer the question and you're just going to boo when I say slavery was all over the world, which is a fact, why are you booing a fact?
Because you're making light of...
No, I'm not.
You're making light
of the enslavement of people
that look like us. You can't make light of that. That ain't nothing you breeze over.
I haven't even finished the sentence. How am I making light of anything?
You started with some...
So, Candace, hold on, wait.
We can be emotional, we can boo, you can cheer, but I'm telling you right now, the black vote is not going to matter after the next about 5 years if you don't start paying attention to what I'm saying to you. Because I'm trying to tell you guys the truth, the absolute truth about what is happening in Black America. You are being used, abused, and lied to and manipulated emotionally by the Democrat Party. That is what I am here to tell you. You want to keep uprising and talking about racism when they're taking our fathers out of the home, when they're making welfare.
You said that already.
No.
We got you.
Because we're seeing it happen right here. Right here. I'm telling you it. And you're being responsive because I can't finish a sentence about what I was going to say about slavery.
Disagree.
Katrina.
Everyone in totality disagree.
Oh, and that's culture, man. That's not intellectual. That's culture.
I need you to
just doing what every left-winger does. I shout louder. It doesn't mean I have any logical argument. It just means I'm louder than you. And then the crowd is louder than you. And kudos to Candace for going into an environment that disagrees with her. Very rarely will you see a left wing go into an environment that disagrees. So kudos to her for going into a complete environment that disagrees with her. She's gone in as a black woman, and she's basically being accused here of being like Uncle Tom and shut up, you don't know what you're talking about, you're not. This is a girl who grew up in the ghetto and rose from the bottom to the top, utilizing the free society that exists in America. She gets to the top of her game, and her life is now different and changed. Finally, there's this point where you hear her talking facts. Not, here's the doctrine of the left, my truth. Not lived experience, because lived experience is so useless a standard to judge things by, because essentially it gives me power even in the face of facts. It flies in the face of facts. It was with this that Alexander, whatever her name is, the senator of New York, basically said, facts here don't matter. What matters is feelings. And so this is what you see even in the Piers Morgan interview with his weather guy. His weather guy is arguing with him. And it's a confusing show because I don't know why the weather guy is... I don't get it.
Because the weather guy is a person of color.
Right, so so they weighed him in as a person of color. And he even argues about color in terms of tonality and blah, blah, blah. It just gets weird. Because this whole thing we should just leave it alone. It doesn't make sense. But anyway, so he's arguing with Piers about all this stuff. And Piers is saying, no, but this is the fact. And I think the argument was about the child being able to have royal privilege or whatever. He says, no, this is the fact, according to this law. And he said, but you don't understand, cue the word, her lived experience. And if you're not aware of this doctrine of lived experience, you will fall prey to it over and over and over again. The facts might fly in the face of your lived experience, but your lived experience is your interpretation of what's happening. And what's worse is when the world starts helping your interpretation. Because there used to be a time calling someone racist. Remember when we would see people go to us and say, you're a baboon or you're a monkey? That's racist. But now racism can be perceived. What else can be perceived? Sexual assault. Let's say I say to a woman, no, you go first, and I put my hand on her back. Her lived experience
was like that. I felt very uncomfortable, and that was a sexual advancement made towards me. I agree with you.
You see, this is the victim class, supreme power in our world today. Because then they get to, then it's believe all women. Because they're women.
Well, the power of culture is very important, because I was trying to do my own internal study of how brainwashing actually works. And let's face it, not all brainwashing is bad. I just want to say that again. Not all. Some people need their brains washed. Some people got.
We all need a program.
Some people's got. We all need a program. We all need a system of thought, because it creates normalcy, it creates society, and so culture is actually a really good thing. But when society needs to progress to the next place, I agree with progress. I don't agree with progressivism. I agree with progress. And when society needs to progress, conservatism is no longer needed. Let me just say something. I love conservatives because conservatives conserve. And there are some ideals that you should always conserve. One of the ideals you should always conserve is marriage, right? Because there is no better system of copulation by which a family can be raised to be mature, to not join gangs, to not do drugs, than through the establishment of family. And the best family is a man and a woman raising up a child. It is a balance of the two that creates success in the governance and the protection of the cubs. Fact. But you start saying, when you run, the problem is when progressives get bored. I find the problem is when progressives get bored, they start progressing things that need to be conserved, and then you end up conserving things that need to move to the next place of progress. And it's backwards. And then the expression of progress, I mean, another thing you should never progress. Let me just say, another thing you should just simply not progress is whether a boy is a boy or a girl is a girl. Can we just agree those things need to be conserved? The protection of gender and biology and science itself needs no progressive statement to it. But when you're a bored progressive, you create the very problem and then tell everybody that the problem you've created now needs a solution. So you create...
I try to put myself in the mind of a progressive. And this is my mind. If I put myself in the mind of a progressive, first of all, you are anti-religious. You are not faith-based at all. You believe that you're the result of a cosmic explosion, a big bang, which runs into the fabric of your moral compass, because then a baby is a biological soup. That's all they are.
Yeah.
Or a parasite feeding on their mum.
Yeah.
And that's when we blush and go, oh, how dare you? Because our worldview is created from the fact that we believe there's a creator, we believe that there's a God, we believe that therefore we have a purpose and a meaning. And
the inconvenience of the progressive is God.
Is God.
It is the biggest impediment to progressivism. He is the idea of God and all those who believe in him. And so the stage of attack for the progressive to really fight their best fight is comedy. And the jest of comedy today in the king's court of elitism is church people, not spiritual people, church people. Because if you can make enough jest out of them, you can marginalize them as crazy. Yet you're okay with the person who rubs some crystals together to improve their chakras, but you're not okay with the person who reads their Bible and believes that Jesus is the Son of God, because to that, what that means is truth is absolute, and it's not set at my convenience. It even means, unfortunately, that science is absolute, because the Bible supports science, which for one should make every scientist happy. God made them male and female. That should make scientists extremely happy. But in our hypocrisy today, what we've ended up doing is we've created the problem, and now we're searching for the solution to the problem we've created. So what we've done is we've said the creator is not taking care of the planet. Bill Gates, do you know what Bill Gates is talking about doing? Blocking out the sun. I don't even know how. And then he's saying the world needs to move to synthetic meat, because the meat God made is, I mean, the monoxide from the meat God made, the carbon print is just too much. So we got to all move off main meat to synthetic meat. And don't worry, it tastes the same. It was made in a lab somewhere and harvested from a piece of meat.
Like it's ridiculous.
But we all need to move to it. And so what we're finding, and printed food and printed products, and what we end up moving into is a world, really what we're doing by saying we need to make progress is we're saying we need to move past God. Global warming, our planet is dying and God's not doing anything. Black Lives Matter, black people are dying and God's not doing anything. So we need an Equalities Act. We need to create the kind of justice in the earth that God is not doing. And then somebody goes, I am God. God is me. Look at what Cuomo said.
Equal outrage on both sides. There is no other side to stop the shootings any way you can. Here's the proof. Anyone being honest must answer the central question the same way. And here's the question. Can we do better than this? You know the answer is yes. You know the damn answer is yes. So why don't we? We can't even have a conversation. The only consensus there is in a canard, and here it is. First, I would like to offer my thoughts and prayers, because that's what you do when you offer thoughts and prayers. You mock those who lost loved ones, because if you gave it any thought at all, you would never walk away from any of these without figuring out a better way to deal with them. And prayer, you think leaving it to God is the answer? We pray for strength, we pray for wisdom, for resolve, but we clearly don't want to act on any of those here. So what are you praying for? What would it take? How about a stadium full of children of the most influential people in our society, all holding puppies? What if they were all shot and killed? Would we act? Oh, don't be ridiculous to suggest something like, is it? Is it ridiculous? More ridiculous than doing nothing? Time after time? Listening to these people pouring out their pain, crying along with them, saying you care? You know the answer to the only question that matters. We can do better. And we all have to live with doing nothing. And the next time is coming. And more, you, me, our leaders, we're all becoming part of the problem. Think and pray on that.
So here we are, and we find ourselves in this place where the new government is, the new God is government. But in order for this government to be God, just like the royal family and the Markle and those people, they need to recreate themselves as benevolent victims, touched with the feelings of our infirmities. I know how you feel. I'm black like you. And if I'm not black, I'm Hillary Clinton, and I'm complaining about how the patriarchal society has made it so that the world isn't ready for a woman yet. I'm for the woman. And then if you're Joe Biden and the balls are stacked against you, I need a puppet. I need a VP who can be my front person so that the masses can be dulled into the acceptance of these aesthetic victim clusters and say, finally, one of us is up there. And then if you're Meghan Markle, the problem becomes you can't complain about patriarchal society because your boss is a woman. The inconvenience is, if only Prince Charles was there when Meghan met Harry. The inconvenience is the one running the so-called privilege is part of the victim class. Indeed, she is also a woman. And so you have to then create a new monster. And the new monster becomes race, because you're always in search for a monster to bolster your PR ratings in front of the masses to whom you're trying to appeal.
Yes, and you can't ignore that this apparent scandal that you were mentioning to me this morning. Was it the New York Times mentioned that this is the greatest scandal?
Oh my gosh!
Royal family
I'll read it to you. Boy, I gotta show you this video. The Mirror. So this apparently is the greatest scandal. And by the way, Prince William's newspaper came out today and basically said that the royal family, just breaking news just now, is the least racist family. And he hasn't yet spoken to his brother, but there you go, just wanted to throw that out there. But the Mirror basically said that this is the biggest crisis in the royal family since, I can't remember what they said it was since. To do so, I have to come off of what I wanted to show you next, but I will do so just for you. So here it is. Nope, it's not here. I can't find it. Interesting.
Well, anyway, they've been saying it's the greatest scandal for the longest time.
But the problem is it's not the greatest scandal. That's the big problem. The greatest scandal...
Have they forgotten Prince Andrew?
Exactly.
Have they forgotten his shenanigans with a young lady? Are we certainly diverting away from that? Have we become distracted? Is it because surely this white male should be the next attack of cancel culture, for sure. But the attention is being moved away drastically, and I guess it's a welcome distraction. I guess it's a welcome distraction that the FBI is researching a member of the royal family right now.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to see where we are today. Is royalty victimized? Can you be a rich victim? Can you actually be a well-off victim? In my opinion, if I was to give my opinion concerning these things, I think something needs to grow with every echelon that you're brought through.
Absolutely.
From not enough to just enough to more than enough.
Absolutely.
If gratitude doesn't grow at each level, I'm afraid we will see more and more of this victim class.
Yeah.
So to an extent, I understand the likes of Meghan, is her name Meghan Kelly? Complaining about Meghan Markle's privilege in being wealthy. I understand the right-wing issue with rich people complaining, millionaires complaining to billionaires about how victimized they are in life. I get it, because there are people in this world who would tear off their right leg. Sorry, you don't have a right nose, you have a right nostril. Who will rip off their right leg to be in the position that you are in. So do we actually have a mental health issue in our world today with this class, or do we have an ingratitude issue? Because how is it on the planet that you can find yourself in privilege and still discover a victimization in that lords it over somebody else who right now, as we're focusing in our problems of the Western world, this woman is complaining about her victimization. And I bet you somewhere in the world there is a woman who is being enslaved and sex trafficked while this millionaire is complaining about her victimization. Can you imagine the contrast? Just picture for a moment. You're a young lady who's been trafficked from her country on the promise of some modeling deal, but your passport's been taken and now you've been trafficked. Sad truths about these women. You are being drugged, abused, beaten, and all these men are raping you. It's now the 8th attempt, but as a little kindness, they put you in a room where you can watch news. Here comes this millionaire woman complaining to a billionaire about being victimized as a woman. What do you think for a moment? Or let's just go to Saudi Arabia or some country where women cannot vote, cannot speak up for themselves, cannot can't even lift their head unless their husband says you can lift your head. And you're watching this woman with all her luxury and freedom, with her God knows how many £1 million mansion in Los Angeles, talking about her victimization. Or picture for a moment the Igbos who are being slaughtered en masse in Nigeria because of their race by people of a different race within that culture. It doesn't make sense. My issue is, with varying levels of privilege, if your gratitude doesn't grow, that's what I was talking about, poverty's lifted. If we don't get to the place where we're grateful, in all honesty, remember the first time we went to Nigeria, I've never forgotten it till this day, because I remember complaining, blah, blah, blah. I get into Nigeria and I see a man, half a body, on a skateboard, singing praises to God while he's collecting money and changing money at the market. I saw what real poverty looks like. Not this one in this country where they still wear designer, but they're on the streets and they can still feed their dog. I'm talking about poverty, and not this one where you have a fallback system, you have various systems in the United Kingdom that will aid and assist you. I'm talking about a country with no fallback, no social care, nothing.
So Bronx's friend is here.
No, and some people still consider themselves to be happy, to be grateful for what they have. But we have a Western privilege. Our test right now is prosperity. And if I could take it to a biblical place, our test of prosperity is this. You are rich and you have need of nothing. Yet what you don't realize is you're poor, miserable, blind, wretched, and naked. I find our test of prosperity in the West is we are grossly ungrateful. We are massive brats. I'll be very honest with you, and this is going to sound very unpopular, because you and I have had the privilege of seeing the world, and we've seen what poverty looks like. When I was watching that show, in all honesty, and this is going to sound really rude, from that outsider's perspective, beyond the Western world, I saw a millionaire brat complaining to a billionaire brat. Not grateful for your life, not grateful for the opportunities that were presented to you. And in that moment, even if you feel you're in a racist environment, if a gratitude could be in your heart in that moment, there might be an opening of your eyes to see the opportunities you have to bring change and reformation. But instead, what this new millennial type people have to contribute to the world is to say, I don't like the look of my palace. And I don't like the fact that my child wasn't named a prince when he should be a prince. And it's basically because of his color. I'm not going to cross-examine this case. I'm not going to scrutinize it for its facts. And then it goes into what I call the emotion sphere. Not the intellect sphere, it's the emotion sphere of Twitter, where people watch bite sizes and they don't actually watch full stories, and they go, you don't understand her lived experience. I get it, I resonate with her lived experience.
But how can anyone sitting around, the problem is nobody sitting around their table can recognize her lived experience, because nobody can sit down and say, you know what, my son didn't get his crown either. Because our crowns, let's face it, come from Burger King. The crowns we put on our kids' heads are from Burger King. And so that's our only relativity to that sentiment. So unless you pepper the conversation with some spicy racial charge, we don't relate. And so we know if Meghan Markle was to sit there and complain about how her child didn't get a crown, and we separated all of the tropes from it and isolated it by ourselves, we'll be like, what? Really? We're all dying of COVID and you're complaining about the fact that your son doesn't have a crown on his head. But then you add those things that trigger all of us. And then what we are forced to do is downscale the crown not being received to, that's why I didn't get the job. That's why I've never been accepted.
Correct.
That's why blah, blah, blah. So she becomes...
That gets moved, everything.
Exactly. Correct. So she becomes the monarch of the victims. She still maintains her royalty, but her new servant class are the victims in her tribe that may not appreciate receiving their children not receiving crown jewels, but can certainly appreciate their children not getting into private school education or having the same access to medical care that other people have the access to. And so in this kind of convenient way, she's left one kingdom, but this was an appeal to a whole other group of people, not to say I am you, but oh, that there was somebody here that could rule you like I can. Oh, that if there was somebody here that could help us, because together we are the same person.
But you know what she's also, what could be perceived that could be the play of any PR staff that she has. because I've already seen the pictures in the circulating. She may be appealing to a new jurisdiction over which she can be a monarch. And the jurisdiction she's appealing to, I don't think it will succeed, because she doesn't have what I think they're trying to create, the Diana effect. Diana was known as the Queen of Hearts. She appealed to a different kind of constituency. She appealed to an emotional constituency. She had the Diana effect, because Diana essentially comes from Britain, and so the heart of Britain is within her. But when you have somebody from America who comes into another culture and shows disrespect to that culture, it's no reason why the polls right now in the UK are actually grossly against what Meghan Markle has done, despite what media is trying to show. The polls of the ordinary person who are awake to what's happening and the agendas to which that are being swirled around them are in disagreement. So, but this is the thing, and I think this is where I want to kind of land the plane today. It's all gearing towards something. And if for a moment we could be futurists, and we can say, instead of saying, you know, when somebody's cutting your hair and you got a new barber, halfway through you're like, what in the world are you doing? And then by the time he's done, you're like, oh, actually,
it's pretty good.
It's okay. Right now, we're right in the middle, or somewhere along the progressive line of where they're trying to reach. At some point, the world modernized, and this new neo-modernist does not like the way the world modernized. They basically believe it modernized wrongly, and it still modernized along some religious fabric that itself needs to be disintegrated. What are they trying to create? What does utopia look like? Because I assume it's going to marry technology in some way that's going to make it work in ways that it didn't work before, or they assume it will. What does that utopia look like to you?
I think that utopia looks like many things, but I can show you a video of where it's going next, and I can probably point to where it's going. Here's this video. Take a look at this.
My baby is gay. Yeah, this is him. He's gay. I called up my dad and I said, hey, guess what? Your grandson, gay. Gay, gay, gay. My dad says, you can't just say that your baby is gay before he gets a chance to tell us he's gay. And I go, whoa, 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 whoa. Straight people do it all the time. Little baby boy is born. Oh, he's gonna be a heartbreaker. Little baby girl is born. Oh, you better lock her up when she turns 16. Clearly, people want their children to be straight. Well, my son is gay. Gay. Very gay. Very gay. Gay. Straight people, do you see? You sound ridiculous when you call babies heartbreakers and say that little baby girls need to be locked up. Stop doing this. It's also just creepy. So stop sexualizing babies.
This is her son. I think
He's a baby.
He's a baby. And she's like, listen, my son's gay. This is like, let me tell you where we are going. We are going to the neutering of the first government, which is family. If we can silence family, because family is the ultimate image of God on display. And that is the biggest unnecessary inconvenience, is that even though there are people who don't believe in God, they're still producing families. And the family is akin to the Trinity, you know? How do you explain the Trinity? Well, you have three arms of government, the executive, legislature, and judicial, 3 in 1. They're still called the government. Same thing with family. You have father, mother, children. You have this kind of triune triangle that protects. It's like a threefold cord. You can't break it easily. And so if you can reshuffle the family, if you can break down the family, then it's like the discipleship of a new parent class begins to emerge. And that parent class is no longer protecting the child from the devil. It's now saying, let's join the devil because we can no longer beat him. It's this kind of helpless parental state where I find most parents are going to, where it's like, let's have a cigarette together. Let's go do weed together. You know, it's this kind of, I don't even call it cool parenting anymore. I call it friendship. And if you can rip away at the layers of an entire generation of children, what you have left is no more parent class, no more protection, and the new distribution of discipleship is no longer educational resistance, because parents resist education. I resist education, the indoctrination of my kids. You do too. But if you can get rid of the inconvenience of that, and you can redefine family and remodel family in your image, then you're in a new place. The other thing I think we're going towards finally is I think we're going towards a new progressive human being. I think we're ultimately going to go towards something no longer made in the image of God. And, you know, you can say that's conspiratorial, but, I mean, France received approval to start testing out a new form of you know, advanced human being. It's testing out the military. China's already doing this. You know, we're talking about gene editing, gene hacking, gene selection. Soon we'll be talking about a new superhuman, a new superhuman race, and we're prepping society for beings no longer made in the image of God. We're prepping society for the ultimate utopia is the eradication of God. That is the ultimate utopia for a certain group of people, because God and his values inconvenience progress. Family inconveniences progress, it has to go.
If I could see the future world, I see a marriage between technology, government, and media and these values. Right now, media is the tool of choice. It's the storyteller. It's the one driving all of our narratives.
Yeah.
Because remember watching those shows back in the day by Paul McKenna, where he would hypnotize people, and seemingly ordinary, rational people would suddenly start clucking around the stage like chickens, or acting like monkeys, or various things. And he was proof that it's possible to put the world in a hypnotic state.
Right.
And the wisdom, I guess, of the left is they play a long game. They play a long game of shock, destabilize, learn helplessness, gain more control. Right. Shock, destabilize, learn helplessness, gain more control. And it's done over a generational spectrum. I believe there'll come a day we won't blush at the idea of pedophilia. There'll come a day we won't blush at the idea of several husbands, one woman with several husbands, or one man with several wives, or whatever. There's coming a day where we will not blush when the government comes in to take somebody's children because you have a different political ideology. We're coming into that time where the world is becoming more like China.
Yeah.
Freedoms are fundamentally being removed slowly in a way that we don't recognize, and we are volunteering our freedoms.
We are.
More and more. The more you see people tell each other off, wear your mask, flying in the face of evidence that this thing is causing us more health complications than it is. The cure is not commensurate to the disease or the wrong or the problem. But you're seeing people aggress against people, even when you say, I got a medical reason for not wearing my mask. Oh no, it's an act of violence for you to not wear your mask. We're seeing ourselves complicit in keeping this world in a cult-like state and volunteering more and more of our freedoms.
Yeah.
To me, the solution, because we're coming into an automized world where we no longer need to work, where it will be like a utopian version of heaven on earth, except if you want it to be heaven for you, you've got to stay in line, stay controlled, shut up, and this future world we're going to build for you is going to be good for you.
I see, and to that point, I see the eradication of social media, and I see social with you as the media. your body becomes the medium. We're already seeing this in China, where you are only given certain privileges, food, water, shelter, and benefits on the basis of your social media status. They've already started to implement that. And so we're coming into a technocracy where you will be rewarded for meeting society's social norms. And we've seen this. I mean, you want to know where mental health came from? You can literally draw a direct parallel between mental health and social media. You can literally draw it. Why? Because the manipulation of social media to appeal to even the thing like, because it appeals to our deepest narcissism, our desire to be accepted. 5 likes on a video means my society doesn't like me. And what we're okay with? We're okay with people not liking us as long as we don't know they don't like us. So we have tribes, families that like us, mums, dads, 5 of us. What social media did was it upscaled that. It said you have a wider family that could potentially like you too, and you can collect likes like credit and dopamine and fill your dopamine system with excitement and joy as you get likes. And the more likes you need, the more of a kick you'll need next time to get more likes. If you get less likes, then you need to keep with the addiction just to improve it. And so you upscale your tribe, and you have this massive tribe that likes you, and all of a sudden you're feeling affirmed in this false sense of security that somehow you are liked and you are followed. But you are not being followed, nor are you being liked. Those two realities don't exist. Because what we find, especially with Piers Morgan, with Cuomo, with all of these things, is the system of like is so shallow that one day you can be a hero, and in the same second that you were a hero, you can be a villain. And so we have to be careful to change our measurement of success. If we're going to get kids out of this mental health crisis that they're in, likes can no longer be the priority, but it is the priority. Yeah. We want to be liked so much. Kids want to be liked so much they're setting their hair on fire. Kids want to be liked so much they're doing dangerous challenges with their lips and bottles to enlarge their mouths. It's just this obsessive nature that actually is changing a lot of pastors' messages. Have you noticed? Preachers are no longer as sharp as we used to be. We're not preaching the truth. We're preaching what can be shared among loads of people in a massive scale, because if you share the truth on Instagram, it's not going to be liked. There's no ouch button. There's no, whoa, that was true. Do you know what I'm saying? There's just like, and so you have to almost downplay the true veracity of truth because you're trying to appeal to an algorithm and to hopefully get more likes if you post more positive.
This is what interests me about the hypnotic effect, that I believe the world is hypnotized. I believe it's socially hypnotized. You know when the hypnotist will go, now, 3, 2, 1, and people asleep, but certain people wouldn't fall asleep. I even noticed this with Darren Brown. He would try and hypnotize the audience. He said, whichever one of you fell asleep, come on the stage. Yeah. Because to fall asleep, you have to be susceptible to hypnotism.
Absolutely.
The woke culture is coming against those of us who haven't fallen asleep.
Yeah.
That's the issue. When they counted 3, 2, 1, and they said, now sleep, now action, now do what we want you to do.
But not only that,
some of us didn't fall in.
But not only that, they've masterfully, to their credit, rebranded being asleep as being awake. Isn't that genius?
Right.
That the ones who are actually sleeping are the ones who we describe as woke. And then I think what's also really successful, I mean, we could really borrow a playbook from this. Can I just say this, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for this. The gay issue is totally different from the transgender issue. Different psychology, different psychosis.
The black issue as well is completely different from the gay
let's
issue,
just
even though they played this
but let's just stick with the LGBTQ for a second, because what happens is, if you isolate these issues, then they can be defeated. But if you compound them together, then there's great success. You now call it the LGBTQ community, right? So you kind of make a nexus that this is all one collected issue, And so pushing through the gay thing is pushing through the transgender thing, is pushing through the pronouns, is pushing through all of those sentiments, because you've kind of galvanized them and caused them to cooperate together, you know? And so I find that really to be two of the successful things about this community is the power of euphemism, switching out words. Like, just so clever. It's terribly clever. Instead of pro-death, pro-choice, why not? Switch out the words, change the language of words. Whereas I think on the right, we're so intuitive, like you rightly always say, that we just kind of go, no, facts don't care about your feelings. And it's true. We know facts don't care about your feelings, but it's not as saucy. It doesn't have the branding that it can be pushed through.
Like, for example, I was talking to you this morning about a new act that's being passed through Parliament, and they're trying to speed it through really quickly while we're all distracted with Meghan. It's about UK digital identity. It's about digitizing completely your identity. It's a complete override of your freedoms. But look what they called it. The trust framework.
Love it.
It's all about trust.
And you know they must have.
An invasion of your personal life digitally to know everything about you. It's called the trust framework.
And you know they must have sampled the hell out of that with an audience of people. Yeah. They must have gone through everything. What should we call this thing so they can accept it? But here's the problem with the technology that you're talking about, the era that we're coming into. It's the utopia dystopia effect, right? The great thing, this has so many benefits. Do you know, even for us in the Christian community, we can preach the gospel without even going to the country. You know, you can order an Uber now and not have to talk to the taxi company about where you're going, and not even have to be like, oh, I'm short on change. There's no inconvenience. Everything is automatically done for you. The dystopia is that you have to give it your freedoms. You have to, there isn't even, I do not consent. You automatically consent to the dystopia because of the utopia. We've all seen all of these things about how we're addicted to our phones and we need to get off them and how they're contributing to our mental health. But it's like these social media giants are trading dystopia for utopia. They're like, yes, we're spying on you on Instagram. Yes, we're spying on you on TikTok. But we're giving you the ability to reach your family and friends. And
exactly. Do you ever see the video of the woman online who found out how much even just Tinder had on her? She had suitcases. She requested all the information. She had suitcases of paperwork that she had printed off.
Wow.
That they had of her in just 1 year. Wow. It's ridiculous. But back to the hypnotism analogy, because I actually believe the world is socially hypnotized. Again, remember there were some, when you watch those hypnotic programs, there's some who fall asleep, susceptible, they're gone, and they're controllable. There are some who don't fall asleep, and the ones who don't fall asleep, there are groups amongst them. Part of them believe it's utterly fake, but some of them feel like they have to pretend just to fit in with the people who have fallen asleep. And it's this awkward kind of pretending to be hypnotized when you're really not. And part of the hypnotism now is, this boy's now a girl. Now from now on, you call him or her. Mm-hmm. And we're looking at people who are fully hypnotized in this thing, and they're like, that's a she. And some of us haven't fallen asleep. We're like, but no, that's it.
And that's the problem. That's exactly.
And we're like, no, but that's a. And then some of us feel like pretending.
Yeah.
Just to kind of. We see the awkward smile when they present on TV that they don't really agree, but it's just like, listen, I don't want to accept the rest of the woke mob.
But that's that represents.
And woke, isn't it when you hypnotize someone, you wake them up and then you move them? Isn't that wokeism? Haven't they just been woken out of their hypnotic state in some way to do, or woken into their hypnotic state to do what? It's just insane.
Yeah, I'm just looking at your article. They sent her 800 pages of her most intimate and intellectual feelings and thoughts. She said, Tinder knows more about me than I know about me. Just think about that.
They have something there called the attractiveness record as well, which rates how attractive she is.
But I think
the data is unreal.
The data is unreal. But I think what's crazy is the fact that if we're talking about, the new woke class, I think what's really interesting is how much that it's not enough for them to have a reality that is void of reality itself. Yeah. It is that they want to change our world apparatus to impose upon us and our children their version of reality. Correct. That is my single biggest problem. You can be a penguin if you want to be. You can do that. Do you? But the imposition of it on my choice of pronouns through which I refer to you, then the tyrannical legislation and prosecution of me for not prescribing to your reality, I find as dangerous as me impugning you for not believing in Jesus Christ as the Son of God. Like, what an absolute abuse of freedom. But I want to close with this. I have American staff, 2 of them from New York. They've been in this country. How long have they been here for? Yeah. A year? No, I wouldn't say a year. Maybe half a year now. Maybe JC a year, but let's say half a year. Do you know, they already miss America. They do. They're like, is this what UK is like? Do you know what they're missing? Freedom. Freedom. Do you know, America is in lockdown as well, but not like here. They're like, we have friends who can still go out shopping and still get food and still hang out together. It's like, well, that's saying, they miss freedom, right? The issue is we have become so complacent that we start looking for problems, because at the height of success, somebody's going to look at you and go, yeah, but it can be better. They're going to look at everything you've just said about, we should be grateful. And they're going to say, yeah, but just because somebody's going through something more doesn't mitigate my experience. And of course it doesn't. I don't like the sentiment where people downplay what they're going through because yeah, but there are people in the world going through much worse. But what you're really trying to say to us is your mental health will dramatically improve when you see the other side. You'll start to have
when you're just grateful every day. When you're in awe. Bro, just to say this, there's a movie called Bliss. In this movie, this woman puts her husband in a virtual world, makes him forget his real life. She brings him back to his real life. And he's like, I'm married to you. This is our world. This is where we live. Because he was thinking about leaving her. So he wanted to restore the state of bliss, gratitude. Mm-hmm. There's this video of a man who wakes up from an anesthetic and he's not all there yet. And he goes, who's she? She's hot. And the woman goes, I'm your wife. He goes, oh, I married you. Wow. It's like we're not grateful. Yeah. Like, life is good. Yeah. It's very good. Yeah. Every day you're awake, you're breathing, you're walking down the street, you've got cognizance, hands, feet, everything. Life is good.
And that's the problem, essentially.
Progressivism should not leave conservatism. Conservatives should improve and progress, but from a place of conservatism. The problem with progressivism is it lacks gratitude for anything. Mm-hmm. It turns over everything.
Right, because if you're right,
problems, brings problems.
Because if you're grateful, then it doesn't need to change. And so you need to get enough people to see the problems in it so that people can be riled up enough to create change. And so you start, instead of waiting for trouble, you begin to troubleshoot. And you begin to prod and poke at it. And then you begin to say, well, look at this. Is there racism in a lot of systems? Yeah, of course there is. Is there prejudice? Of course there is. But in perspective, of black people being shot in America by white officers, and then black people being shot in Nigeria by black officers, all of a sudden, in perspective, you start to go, maybe we're trying to force data sets to come together instead of actually seeing things in a wider, in a wider perspective. And I guess in this kind of elite privilege, or what we call kind of the royal privilege, what happens is you start to live in a bubble where have you ever had enough people, have you ever said something about somebody and somebody had the same thing to say about that person? You really like that person, but you just didn't like something they did, and somebody else didn't like something they did. Now you feel guilty because 5 people don't like what they did, and it wasn't an you weren't trying to impugn their character, it was just one thing you didn't like about them. But you're almost drawn into this cascade of negativity because your small issue compounded with their small issue, compounded with their small issue, has now created something that blocks the entire world.
You know the wisdom of it? The wisdom of ingratitude is it keeps us stuck in 2 places where we have no power. It either keeps us locked in depression in the past, and that's why they redig past issues and cancel people over things they said 10 years ago, or it keeps us locked in the future, where we're anxious about the future, global warming, the world's going to end, various things. And the left have played these states masterfully because in these 2 states, we are helpless.
And that's why I call it the hyper-present.
Gratitude, exactly. Gratitude brings us to the present. And it brings us to an awareness of where we have, what we have, and the opportunities that are around us to improve right now. So instead of trying to tidy up the world, we tidy up our lives. We take responsibility for ourselves, and we grow and we mature. But as long as we're shocked into these states of the future is in doom, the past is one day going to come and haunt us and we'll never be forgiven of it, we learn helplessness and we surrender more of our freedoms, even if you're royalty.
Well, guys, you've heard it from us. Please do let us know what you think in the comment section. Be sure to share like crazy, like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. The after party is taking place on the OTT Instagram, sorry. The link is in the description. Be sure to join us for the after party. We'll see you next time. From me, Tomi Arayomi.
And from me, Tobi Arayomi.
You've been watching OTT. See you soon.
See you soon.
We all have a life.
No web, no bed. No ring, no DVD, no female, no female.